Today I'm going to have a look at the MD or Mega Drive Compact Retro Console I picked up from Japan. Does it suck or is it any good? Let's find out! G'day invaders and welcome to Synth Spacies, and for this video I have got an unboxing. As many of you know, I am a huge Sega Mega Drive fan, or Genesis in some parts of the world. I still remember back in the late 80s riding my bike for kilometers to get to my mate's place because he had an older brother who went to Japan and got himself a Sega Mega Drive, brought it back to here in Australia, and I was so keen I went there with a cassette tape, went and played it at his place, and I was just blown away with the graphics compared to what was going at the time, because we were used to this thing here, the Sega Master System, and you know, it was a pretty cool console for its time, but the graphics were pretty limited really. But then when the Mega Drive came out, it was like, holy crap, this sounds so good compared to the Sega Mega Drive, the Sega Master System. It had high quality stereo sound, which was something that we just had not seen before in a console. And I was so enthusiastic about that console in the time that I actually had a cassette tape with me. I recorded the music, I brought it back home, and I was listening to that tape over and over again, and eventually I bought myself a Sega Mega Drive from Japan way ahead of its schedule here in Australia for release. Anyway, I'm going a little bit off topic, but just giving you a bit of an idea of how much I love the Mega Drive. So what I've got here is the Mega Drive Compact from a company called Columbus Circle. I don't know anything about this company at all. In fact, I haven't seen any videos on YouTube about this device, so I'm going to get stuck into the unboxing. This is totally unrehearsed, and it is hot as all heck in this room at the moment. So let's get this opened up. I guess you go from the side here. This is so not rehearsed. Alright, so I'm trying to do it for the camera, but at the same time not in a way that makes everything fall apart. There's nothing else in the box there. I'll read parts of what it has to say on the box. I gather that it's not HDMI. Okay, it takes genuine Genesis carts. It actually says Mega Drive on the top, but it points out Gen on the cart there, which is interesting. I don't know what that arrow thingy is supposed to represent. It says here RPG, which I think is meant to say RGB. I think they got that wrong. It comes with two controllers. It doesn't really say all that much. It comes with a standard AV cable. I'm not going to get much from the box there. You can see it's just got some diagrams. Anyway, let's get straight into it. So that's the unit there. How am I going to hold this up without it falling everywhere? There we go. So that's what comes in the box. I'm just going to bring these out one at a time. Isn't it cute? This is the actual look how tiny it is. To give you an idea of how small that is, it fits right on top of the Mega Drive there that I've got here in the corner. Alright, so I've pulled out Lemmings, just happened to be nearby, and you can see it's almost as big as the actual console itself. So it is compatible. I want to be careful with it. There we go. So that's what it looks like when it's got a game in there. I can't get over how cute this thing looks. So there we are. It comes with two controllers, 6-button controllers, which I'm going to open up one now. I've cracked that open, and I got to tell you, it actually feels okay to the hand to use. It's not the same as the original, but it's the same shape. So that's an authentic Sega 6-button controller for the Mega Drive or Genesis, and that's its clone there. and you can see the D-pad's a little bit on the bigger side. It's got some extra buttons there. You got a slow button in the middle and select and start, whereas this one's just got start. So that's one controller. I've got another controller there which I won't bother unboxing because you saw the first one, and it comes with a what looks like a pretty ordinary looking plug for the power, and this one takes 100 volt, so I'm not going to be able to use that on Australian because we use 240 volt here. That will blow it up. And that's the AV cable. So yeah, that's the console there. It's just got O for overseas, I guess, and J for Japan. So you can select what region game you want to play. It's a 9 volt. I would dare say that the standard Mega Drive one would work. So I don't even need to use the proper one that comes with this. It is so cute. It is just ridiculously tiny. I'm going to be posting pictures up this of this on the Twitter account, and I might give this a quick shot on see if I can get this to run. Back soon. Alright, so we've got everything all plugged up, and a bit of sad news. The power cord that comes with it, where is that cheap ass thing? So this is the power cord that comes with it. Now, it's 110 volt, so I know not to put this in on the Australian power outlet. I've got that big box thingy to step or convert the voltage down, but that thing's fried. It's really cheap and nasty, despite the fact I've tried to do my best to not have it fry on me. So that's a downer, which means that if you're buying one of these, be prepared to BYO your own Mega Drive, Sega Master System, or Sega SC3000 power adapter. Now the good news is the regular power pack that you use for the Genesis or Mega Drive will actually work on this thing. So with that out of the way, I'm going to fire it up and you'll get an idea of what we're dealing with. Now when you power this thing up with no game in it, nothing happens. You don't get any menu options or any inbuilt games. It's just a Mega Drive as you would have got with the original Mega Drive. Let's fire it up though. So I'm going with Sonic the Hedgehog because that seems to be the default test. Ooh, the sound is a little bit ghastly, but for the most part it's, well, you'll see in a minute, it's reasonable. So I'm using the inbuilt control, or the controller, the packed in one that came with it. This is just a demo running. As you can hear, this is the most faithful sound chip I've ever heard on any of these retro consoles. They've got the sound right. So I hit start. I'm going to try and play it using this just to see if it feels right. I actually don't mind the controller. The controller, for the most part, a little bit spongy, but I don't know. It's definitely playable. I can honestly say that if you do not have a Sega Mega Drive and you don't want to be bothered trying to track down an old one on eBay, this is definitely a decent alternative. Now I got this from Japan. I have not seen it on eBay for sale. I'd imagine it would be kind of hard to find. So that's, I guess, a good test of this playing through the first level. And as you can see, the colours pop just the same. It's for all intents and purposes, it's just like playing a regular a regular Mega Drive. No, what are you doing? No, 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 no. See, I always get sucked in on playing this. No, no. That's it. Yes! So the sound is really done well. And got my extra man. So that's that one. So putting it in doesn't feel as natural as the Mega Drive does. Now let's see if this runs. Look at that, no problem at all. No need for conversions or anything. The original one, I won't be able to play this game on my Mega Drive because this is a Genesis NTSC title. And as you can see, runs just perfect. I love that intro. I don't know what the select button does. I have no idea. Alright, so you get the idea. It runs perfectly. So I'll switch that off. We move over now to Space Harrier. Now this is a Japanese version. It's weird too, doesn't it? See it? It's so small. Alright, and fire it up. Obviously this is going to work because this is a Japanese purchased item. Of course it's going to run a Japanese Mega Drive game with no problem. Oh god, this brings back memories. I haven't played this game in so long. This is the game that, or pretty much sold the Mega Drive for me at the time. And how clean and how crisp it looked at the time. And the sound.
Get ready.
That's awesome. Okay, so that shows that the Japanese games work. And one last test. I don't see any reason why this won't work, but just to confirm. Now this is the most expensive video game I have ever bought. This is Virtua Racing for the Sega Mega Drive. I paid $200 for this back in '95. The inflation is insane on how much that is in today's money. The reason why this game is so expensive, and the reason why I'm using it as a test, the cartridge is much bigger for a start than a regular Sega Mega Drive game because it has its own independent processor inside, Sega Virtua processor chip, the SVP. So in it goes, and oh, got a bit of an issue. Doesn't like the Virtua Racing game. Let's try that one more time. Maybe I've just plugged it in wrong. Okay, so it doesn't like that game. Just to prove that the game is not stuffed, I'm going to quickly plug in my regular Mega Drive here. And switch it over. Just 1 second, bear with me. Alright, so just to prove that the cartridge itself is not faulty, that the game is fine, I've fired up my regular Mega Drive over here. And it works just fine. Okay, so obviously it's not without its faults. I would imagine that this retro console runs 99% of all the Sega Mega Drive cartridge game base or catalog. But obviously it's not going to run games like, well, this was the only game that I know of that had its own processor chip inside. So I have managed to find something that is quite wrong with it. The only other faults that I've got with this is that it can't be used on the Sega Mega CD. That's not going to be an issue for most people, but for me, I'm kind of bummed out that it doesn't have the expansion ports underneath. I'm just going to try one last thing. So now I'm just going to try for one last test running Sonic the Hedgehog on a regular Mega Drive, in this case 6-button controller. And yeah, I couldn't see any reason why it wouldn't run. So that's Sonic the Hedgehog running on it just fine. And this is Micro Machines 2 Turbo Tournament. It even, I love the sound. It even comes with the invite cards for tournaments that you could send out to your mates, which and there's even little certificates inside, awards to give out to people who won the tournament. I still got those. Right, so that's my look at the compact Mega Drive. It has some slight faults, but for the most part, I would have to say if I was giving this a rating out of 5, I'd give it a 4. Possibly, I would have given it a 4.5, but the fact that the power converter that they give you, the power adapter, is absolute rubbish. That's the only fault that I've got with this. The sound is, I think, for the most part, spot on. The graphics seem to handle quite well, considering it's just a reproduction version of the actual console. And I'd even go as far to say is that I could possibly use this for my future videos to save me having to wear out the current authentic Mega Drive that I've got sitting there. So there you go. Let me get the box out there. So that's been my look at the compact Mega Drive from Columbus Circle. I picked this up in Japan from BIC Electronics. That's BIC. I'm sure you could possibly hunt this down on eBay if you tried real hard enough. It was only 3,500 yen, which translates to about 40 bucks, 40 Australian dollars. So that's probably 30 or 25 US. Worth a shot, definitely worth getting. Leave your comments below if you feel like you would probably step up on getting one of these. One regret that I had was that I didn't pick up the they had a Nintendo/Super Nintendo with HDMI out from the same company, and I didn't buy it. Yeah, not a good decision on my behalf. I'll probably end up getting that next trip. But yeah, leave your comments below, leave a like, please subscribe, and I got a new outro. I got to try and get into the habit of using this. My name's been Brian, and I've been playing since Spaceys. Thanks, guys.